Imagine this. You are relaxing at your hotel poolside in Bulgaria after a long day of traveling. You're excited to return home to Germany after your vacation, but first you need to get some rest. However, when you look around the pool, you notice one of your friends is nowhere to be found. They were just there a second ago, but now they've vanished without a trace. It doesn't make any sense. Did they leave the resort? Maybe they decided to take an unplanned excursion, you think. But then you remember, they had a flight scheduled for tomorrow morning. Of course, they wouldn't have left without telling anyone, especially not when they had an early flight the next day. At this point, panic starts to set in. Where could they be? Why haven't they checked back in? And most importantly, are they okay? Welcome back, guys, to another episode of our channel. We bring you unsolved mysteries of the world that will blow your mind. Today we will be looking at the creepy disappearance of Lars Mittank, a young German man who vanished without a trace while on vacation in Bulgaria. Back in 2014, he was last seen getting onto a flight back to his home country, but he never arrived. All signs pointed to the fact that he'd made it to his destination safely. Yet no one has ever been able to account for his whereabouts since he landed. How did he suddenly vanish from the face of the earth? What happened to Lars? A 23-year-old German medical student, Lars Mittank, was enjoying a trip to the Bulgarian seaside resort town of Sunny Beach with two of his best friends and a girl he had just met. The four of them spent July 2014 having a great time until, for reasons unknown, Lars decided to go back to Germany alone. According to his travel itinerary, Lars had booked a flight to Germany from Burgas Airport on July. But 2 days before his departure, the young man called his mother and told her that he had changed his plans and decided to fly from Varna Airport instead. After hanging up the phone with his mom, Lars contacted his friends through Facebook Messenger to tell them of his change of plans. Unfortunately, Lars didn't specify why he was changing his flight itinerary. So naturally, his friends were quite surprised by the news. But since none of them lived close enough to Lars to go to the airport to pick him up, they thought nothing of it. Each went about their day as usual and decided to catch up with Lars once he got back to Germany. As July came around, Lars messaged his mom to inform her that he had made it back to Germany safe and sound. In fact, according to the message, Lars said he was already relaxing at his favorite pub, which indicated that he had probably arrived home hours ago. His mom must have felt relieved to hear from him, though she couldn't help but wonder why he hadn't texted her sooner. Nevertheless, she was happy that her son was home. She didn't know it yet, but that text was the last time anyone would communicate with Lars. No one knows what happened next. When Lars's friends woke up on July, they opened their messaging app to see if Lars had sent them pictures of his flight, or maybe even souvenirs from his trip. But they noticed that Lars had actually deleted his Facebook page overnight. They were unsure if this was because he decreated a new personal account, or if he'd gotten hacked. Since they had no way of knowing what had happened, they figured that they'd simply wait until he got back in touch with them. However, hours passed and still no word from Lars. Now concerned, the friends decided to check in on him. Two of them tried calling him, but his phone went straight to voicemail. They tried sending him messages, but they were left on read. When they logged into his Facebook page, they saw that the profile had been taken down completely. This wasn't like Lars to go offline for such a long time without letting his friends know what was going on. Something definitely seemed off. His friends knew Lars well enough to realize that he would never ignore their calls. He was a loyal, communicative person who cherished his friendships and would always make time for the people he loved. But now it had been hours since he'd gotten back in touch with his mother, and no one had heard from him. They began to panic. Had something bad happened to him? Was he hurt? Was he still in Bulgaria? All these questions raced through their heads. With no way of reaching him, they could only sit and wait. In the meantime, Lars's mom had reported him missing to the police, but they were unable to locate him because, according to the message he'd sent her, he should have been back in Germany. Therefore, the police assumed that Lars had simply gone out for a few days to enjoy himself, and they advised his friends and family to wait for him to return home. However, after several days of hearing nothing, Lars's mom knew in her gut that something was wrong. So she decided to travel to Bulgaria herself to retrace her son's steps and try and find him. She contacted the German embassy and told them of her mission. Luckily, the embassy offered to help her and put her in touch with the Bulgarian authorities so that they could assist her in finding Lars. The police accompanied Mrs. Mittank to the apartment Lars had been staying at in Bulgaria, but there was no sign of him there. Everything in the apartment appeared to be in order, and there were no signs of a struggle, indicating that Lars had probably left willingly. However, this didn't make sense. He had his passport and wallet with him, plus he had a flight to catch. Why would he leave behind all his identification documents if he intended to come home? With no answers, Mrs. Mittank decided to go to the airport where her son was supposed to have flown from. It was here that the investigators were able to find some clues. A woman working at the security checkpoint recognized Lars immediately and informed the police that she remembered checking him in for his flight. She also remembered noticing that he was acting strangely. For example, he seemed very nervous. He kept looking around him frantically, as if someone was following him, and he asked her several times if he was on the right flight. Lars had even asked the woman how long it would take to reach his destination. When she told him 90 minutes, he thanked her and quickly walked away. That was the last time anyone had seen Lars alive. After watching the security footage, it became clear that Lars had boarded the plane and was seen sitting down in his seat. However, when the plane arrived at its destination, Lars was nowhere to be found. None of the passengers had seen him get off the plane, nor had anyone seen him at baggage claim. And when the police checked his seat, they saw that his bag was still there. Furthermore, no one had seen him buy a ticket for a different flight or exit through the international arrivals door. Investigators had absolutely no idea where Lars had gone. So what happened to Lars Mittank? Did he really board the plane? If so, why did he never arrive at his destination? Or was he never on the plane at all? Some believe that Lars may have been kidnapped, but this theory seems far-fetched, considering that no ransom has ever been demanded. Moreover, if someone had taken him, why would they have left his belongings behind? Others believe that Lars planned to leave the country, maybe because he was involved in some shady activities. But this is unlikely considering that he was just a medical student. Still, we have to ask why he suddenly decided to change airports. What made him delete his Facebook page? Why did he seem so scared when he boarded the plane? And what did he mean when he told his friends he was flying from Varna? Did he make it to Germany, or is he still stuck in Bulgaria? Sadly, we don't have any answers to these questions, which is why the Mittank case remains unsolved. As you can see from this episode, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Thanks for watching. Have you heard this case before? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories like this, be sure to check out another episode on Unexplained Mysteries. See you next time.